Doubles and coffee. Shub Diwali. But you really need to understand this Diwali. That Diwali is a celebration of good over evil, light over darkness. Imagine on this Diwali, the Express newspaper, the #1 member of the PNM fake news media, put 3 PNM MPs, Marvin Gonzalez, Marvelous Marva of Double Palm fame, in between Colm Imber, who the last time I checked, and unfortunately I seen plenty, is not black, and Simon the Nobrega, the nosebreaker, who is not black. And the headline in the newspaper on Diwali of the Express is a public lynching. Now the word lynching is a powerful word, especially in African people, people of African heritage. And all your PNM want to talk race. This is why the Dogla is here. The Dogla is half African from his father and half East Indian from his mother. Lynching evokes pain, torture, emotional stress of African people, as those of lighter hues, especially in the south of the USA, during up to as recently as the 1950s, 60s, 70s, were lynching. White people were holding for no reason, beating, battering, and lynching black people. It came from the story of Lynch, a black boy who was hung from a tree in a southern state in the USA. It evokes race, it evokes division. And here comes the Express newspaper with one black man, I use man loosely, and 2 white boys sitting on his side talking about the UNC government with a speaker, a young lady who came and did her duty properly, explained, and gave a ruling on a judgment, which I will deal with just now, on Penelope Beckles, a black woman. The Express uses the term lynching. An irony of ironies, these 3 PNM miscreants are sitting in Balize House, a former plantation house, where workers and black people were abused. That was a plantation house owned by Bermudez. They're sitting down in there. And by the way, en passant, what happened to all the work at Balize House? The 140 million in construction of a 6-story with basement car park and so on. How all that work just stopped? I digress. But on this Diwali day, that is the image that the Express is trying to evoke. That the East Indian government, which is nonsense, because the UNC under Kamla Prasad, the successor, has brought unity amongst the 2 major racial groups and the whole society in Trinidad and Tobago, bringing African and Indian together, just like in 1922, when the East Indian Association and the African National Congress came together to bring change against the colonials, to get legislative council to move forward, just like in 1986, when all came together under NAR, and just like the People's Partnership in 2010, every time the country moves forward, there is unity. So in 2025, April 28, Kamla Prasad Bissessa brought everybody together. Dave Tanku and Kamla Prasad Bissessa just presented a budget that across the board, everybody in Trinidad and Tobago praised it. We saw celebration break out on that budget. And here comes the Divisive Express newspaper with the PNM inside a plantation house talking about a lynching, that Penelope Beckles, a black woman, was lynched by the UNC. Now let's get on to the facts. Look at me here. When Christine Kangaloo, the president of the Senate, was oppressing me, and you all saw the video, don't let me bring back all the video, and that is not all of it. Oppressing me, calling standing orders when PNM didn't call it, interrupting me, telling me all kind of nonsense, curtailing my time, interrupting my time, and one time putting me out of the Senate. I created a fiction, a story to read to my daughter Anaya called Planet Senator. I went so far to create a fantasy story with cartoon about a teacher, a headmistress and so on, Miss Kangaroo, and I created all sorts of innuendo to make my point of oppression. I went so far because of the standing orders and privileges and so on. And yet, the PNM still pelt me before the Privileges Committee, even though nothing specific was said, no criticism could be said that it was exactly to anybody or anything. It was a fantasy scenario of Planet Senator. The PNM sent me to Privileges Committee, and Senator Vera tell me that I duck in there because I don't have asthma. You have to understand what the UNC senators and MPs went through. But here it is, that Penelope Beckles, 30 years in something does not mean you're an expert in it. It just means whatever you're doing, you're an expert in that. So being a dunce for 30 years in politics, Penelope Beckles did not understand that to write categorically on a letterhead of the leader of the opposition and sign it, false, baseless attacks on the speaker to bring the speaker of the House of Representatives into disrepute. There can be no more clear, cogent evidence of her misconduct. If ever any human being deserved to go to privileges, it's Penny. Whether it was out of stupidity, she doted, she dumb, or she just don't understand, or PNM just have no respect, then Penny, it was the easiest decision to put her before Privileges Committee. Just read the letter. You have standing orders. We in the House cannot attack the Speaker and the President. Even those who were there abusing us, oppressing us, the blue-haired lady and so on. We couldn't come out directly and say it. I had to concoct and create a fantasy story to give you my story and my emotions. And still, I was hauled before the Privileges Committee. Was I lynched? And here comes the Express on a day of unity, of love, of light over darkness, with their racist, nasty agenda, using a term like lynching to say that Penelope Beckles was lynched by the UNC government. An African woman was lynched by the East Indian government. That's the impression and perception that the Express is pushing. Not that Penelope Beckles, you were wrong, fast, and out of place. You ought to have known better to bring the speaker into disrepute, to sign your name and to publish it publicly was totally against the standing orders and not on. It breaks discipline. It's classless. It shows that you don't understand the rules of the House. You didn't say that. You're coming to try to say that the UNC took advantage of Penny after she gave her budget response. Furthermore, Penny was so dotish. She didn't even have a clue that what she did was wrong. Because had she had a clue, had someone like Imbot sitting down next to she, the lynching might be that Imbot lynched Penny. Because Imbot is sitting there at her side knowing full well that when she sent out that media release, that she was wrong, that she was heading for privileges, and that it was a slam dunk case, that the speaker, the deputy speaker, had no choice. It was so clear. It's like being caught with a murder on the scene, on top of the body, with the gun in your hand, and the gun still smoking with fingerprint and gunpowder all over you. That is what Penny did. Imbot knew that. But did Imbot tell her, hey, boss lady, leader of the opposition, you better get up there before, at their first opportunity, before you read your budget, apologize to the speaker for your statements, for your media release, for your accusations, for bringing the speaker into disrepute. And once she apologized there, then the UNC could not have brought her before privileges. But Coleman didn't advise her that. He set her up and let her go to read out a whole budget thing that half ye write of lies and stupidity, knowing full well privileges was coming. Him but knew, and he sits down there with Marvin Gonzalez, a black man between two white boys, talking about lynching in Trinidad and Tobago on Diwali. That is the insanity and the divisiveness of the PNM. Reject that. Express you're sick. And the country rejects you, rejects the race. We are all one race. Today, Trinidad and Tobago celebrates Diwali. All African, all Indian, all Dogra, all Chinese, all Syrian, all mixed up, all Venezuelan, Trini, everybody celebrating. We will all celebrate Christmas and Eid. We will all celebrate Carnival and move together as a community. Thousands of people are looking for jobs, qualified people. If you see them with degrees, people with 2 degrees, masters, who could not get jobs, sustainable jobs under the PNM, are turning up to the Couva Cycling Center to apply for jobs. Kamala Prasad, sister, is fixing this country that the PNM and the Express and the PNM fake news media shattered. So your divisiveness, your race agenda, your race card, Express and PNM would not work. One black man in between 2 white boys in a plantation house talking about lynching on Diwali. Express, you have no shame. Fire burn Express. Fire burn PNM. And Penny, you was wrong and you know that. You have no shame. You can't be so dotish. Bless.